Talk us through the impact that these sanctions have had on the global oil markets, the details, why they are proving significant.
Well, this is the first time that the Biden administration, as their last sort of act, is putting real sanctions across the board on Russian oil. You know, they've hit the insurance companies. They've hit about 2 companies that handle 30% of the crude that comes out of Russia. And they've also hit over 150 oil tankers. All of that is much larger than the packages that they've done before and will make it more difficult for Russia to continue shipping crude, well, as long as incoming President Trump doesn't overturn it. Now, looking at the impact, some of the banks and analysts are saying that this could affect 800,000 to about shy of 1 million barrels a day. That's about 1% of global crude supply. That would affect mostly markets like India and China that were taking more Russian crude. And I have to remember that before this, the Biden administration was a bit more, they were taking a step back when it came to Russia and oil. They didn't want to cause any disruption to supply because that could affect prices. And on top of that, they put this price cap sort of mechanism in place to kind of reduce the amount of oil revenues that Moscow was making while keeping the barrels flowing into the market. This is a sort of turnaround to that policy and also a test for Trump.
Stephen, what then, given the action that we've seen and the fact that this is pretty broad-based, it is having that impact, what are expectations when you listen, when you're speaking to analysts in terms of how the oil story pushes forward from here in terms of pricing, with Brent now above $80 a barrel?
So there are 2 sort of things that the market will be watching closely. One will be, how effective are these sanctions? Will they stay in place? Will they actually reduce the amount of crude coming to the market? As I mentioned, some banks are saying this could affect as much as 800,000 barrels a day of oil being exported out of Russia. If that is the case, then you could see oil, which is in the $80 range, kind of trend more towards $90. There is no expectation that you're going to see a spike like we saw in 2022 after the war in Ukraine began and we were above $100 for Brent. Instead, you're going to see sort of a ratcheting up of prices where maybe the market wasn't expecting that. The second thing that you're going to have to watch as well is Iran and what Trump does with Iran. Trump has sort of said that he will put a tougher sort of stance on Iran and maybe enforce sanctions that have been in place that could also reduce the amount of oil coming out of that country. Further, another bullish element pushing prices up. But again, I do have to say that there isn't, as far as we've heard, any expectation that you're going to see any big spikes like we saw in 2022 in the oil market.